Welcome to our first ever CleanTech Showcase by Startup Chicago with Current and Clean Energy Trust. We are so excited that you're able to join us today. We have some really amazing startups as well as a fireside chat with Elena from Current and Eric from Clean Energy Trust. So here's our agenda for the day. We will break the startup pitches into two parts. We will have part one, followed by the fireside chat, and then part two, we will close with remarks from Samir Mayakar. But first, I would like to talk a little bit about Startup Chicago and the Chicago Venture Summit by World Business Chicago. Startup Chicago is our startup growth and venture attraction program, which was founded in December of 2020, so we're coming up on 1 year. We have over 185 startups in the portfolio from pre-seed to Series A, the majority of which are actively fundraising in 2021 and 2022. As you may know, we recently hosted the Chicago Venture Summit, which hadn't been in Chicago since 2018, so that was very exciting. The Chicago Venture Summit is Chicago's flagship VC and startup conference. We had over 600 registrants, representing over 160 VC firms and over 150 founders. This was our largest Chicago Venture Summit ever, and it just took place September 27th through the 29th. And we're very grateful to our sponsors, as you see on the right, who have helped us to promote these programs and bring you all with us today. So with that, I would like to turn it over to C-Motive.
All right, everyone. I'm Justin Reed, co-founder and CTO of C-Motive Technologies. Let me get this to work here. All right, so C-Motive, we are developing the world's first commercially viable electrostatic machine. This goes from, has its roots with Ben Franklin in 1748. So we're a startup out of Madison, Wisconsin. We currently have 16 employees. We're a spin out of UW-Madison, and took us a few years to get going. We finally did a seed round in 2019 and an extension round earlier this year. Electric motors are an enormous global market, around $50 billion. And so we have identified an initial addressable market of over $10 billion, which is the industrial torque motor market and material handling. And we are using a combination of contract manufacturing that will transition into IP licensing later on in order to get to market. So electric motors are really the foundation of electricity, and so it has a tremendous climate impact. Nearly 100% of electricity on the grid today comes from electric generators, and around half of it is consumed by electric motors. So enormous environmental footprint, and this enables growth in new applications like e-mobility and renewable applications. Our technology is unique in that it's very sustainable. So there's no rare earth metals and a minimum amount of copper. And it also increases the efficiency not only of the electric motors themselves and generators, but also of the systems they're connected with. So industrial operations and commercial applications that reduce overall energy consumption. So, of course, this has a tremendous impact to climate, primarily through there's of course industrial applications, but especially through the use of transformative applications like hydrokinetic power generation, wind generation. There's definitely gigaton impact potential here over the next 10 years or so. So we've identified a number of savings in industrial applications that are part of our target market. So our machine, our mousetrap, is better than the other conventional 130-year-old electromagnetic motor mousetraps out there, in that we produce torque from voltage, which leads to ultra-high energy efficiency. So this means that compared to regular motors, we can produce almost no heat inside our motors at low speeds. So highly differentiated from all the motors out there. You can see on the left side what's inside of our motor. So There are no rare earth materials, no hard to obtain metals from that are rare earth materials for magnets. There's 1/10 of the copper compared to regular motors, so leading to ultra low cost. We have near-term value markets in the 1 to 5 year time frame with cumulative revenues of around $175 million, and also a number of growth markets in a 5 to 10 year time frame of well into the billions of dollars, and high carbon reductions, carbon emissions reduction potential for both of those. So key milestones: we've recently expanded our team. We had a brand and website refresh earlier this year. We've already demonstrated world record-setting power and torque values for electrostatic machines. We're getting our first machines sent out to customers later this year, and we have third-party test validation data in process. Commercial, we're making great strides on this. So we have a multi-phase project under negotiation with a major e-commerce company and their conveyor belt supplier. We have an MOU that we're working on with another very large motor company. We have phase 1 projects either in process or in completion, and we also have multiple government contracts underway. We're doing a $10 million Series A raise. We can talk about, I think I'm probably a little bit over time at this point, so we'll talk about more of that later. And here's our team. So we have Matt Maroon, our CEO, is currently on a tarmac somewhere, which is why I'm presenting right now. So I also have Dan Ludis, a professor at UW-Madison. So we are the leadership of the company. We have 8 PhDs. It's no stretch to say that we have the world's expertise in electrostatic motors in Madison, Wisconsin. So that is a brief overview of C-Motive, and I'll tie it up with that.
Thank you so much, Justin. Next, we have Ansara. You're on mute.
Hello, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes. Okay.
Great, sorry about that. My name is Nina Khattri. I am the founder and president of Ensters. We provide AI tools to optimize wastewater treatment. The problem we're addressing is the fact that as population has been increasing, wastewater treatment facilities have had to do more and more. And currently we are finding that a lot of older use wastewater facilities are in need of upgrades. And this is happening at a time where we're expecting more from these wastewater utilities, whether it be more stringent nutrient discharge standards, whether it be treating that wastewater for reuse purposes and supplementing the freshwater supplies, or whether that be meeting climate goals, being net zero in carbon emissions or net zero in energy consumption. And all of this requires more advanced treatment systems that have often increased operational costs due to increased energy and chemical consumption. And optimization at these facilities can really help minimize energy and chemical consumption. But the mentality of operators traditionally in the wastewater sector has been to treat to discharge standards, and optimization hasn't really been part of the strategy. All this is happening as we're really finding 1/3 of the workforce in our sector, the wastewater sector, is eligible for retirement, which is leading to a drain in institutional and experiential knowledge. It's also leading to an influx of younger workforce that's more tech savvy. The opportunity here is that the water and wastewater industry is currently undergoing a digital transformation, and it's drawing on new technologies in connectivity, mobility, automation, and data analytics. And artificial intelligence tools can be used to assist operators and optimize plant operations in ways that were previously impossible. We at Ensters have been developing our AI wastewater stack since 2017. We've been primarily funded by government grants, awards, and more recently, commercial contracts. At the core of every solution we provide to our clients is our data analytics and AI algorithms, which are based on our own proprietary research and also research published in top AI conferences and water journals. We also provide hardware and sensors depending on the client, and an insights delivery platform as well. And we're leaning more and more towards providing analytics as a service as becoming a core revenue model for us. The market size for this industry, digital water, as indicated by Bluefield Research, was 5.4 billion in 2019, is expected to grow to 10.8 billion in 2030. AI tools for operator assistance and plant operation optimization are new markets within the digital water space. So when we look at our initial target market, we really want to hone in on wastewater treatment facilities in the United States. And there are about 16,000 such public wastewater treatment plants in the United States. And we believe we can convert 1,000 accounts to an analytics as a service model, resulting in a $5 million annual recurring revenue within the next 1 to 5 years. Right now, we have 2 projects under contract and dozens of projects in the pipeline. Our revenue from last year was a little over 300,000. Currently, we're projected to get to $500,000 this year. Our revenues till date have been from process engineering and designing greenfield wastewater treatment plants to be AI platform ready. And we're getting some of our greenfield projects online to an analytics as a service model. This month will be one of our first conversions. Our team is deeply experienced in both wastewater and AI. I'm the founder and president of NSERS, and I've been in the wastewater space for 15 years. My background is as a process engineer. I've also have experience with project management, plant automation, and advanced analytics. The chief scientist at NSERS, he's also an associate professor at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. He's an expert in artificial intelligence, data science, sensor networks, and cloud computing. We're looking to raise $2 million in a seed funding round. The funds will be used to build out the execution team. We're looking for full stack developers to build out, improve, and support our AI platform, and sales engineers to build a healthy pipeline of analytics as a service accounts for our product. So we're looking forward to build the next generation of AI tools for wastewater operators. And if you're interested, please contact me for more information.
Thank you, Nina. Iris Light is up next.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Chad Husko. I'm the CEO and founder of Iris Light Technologies. And our company puts lasers onto silicon photonic chips. And I'll get to the clean tech angle on this in a minute here. But first, let me just tell you, silicon photonics is a booming industry. It went from basically $0 or a nascent industry to across $1 billion in 2020. It's growing at over 40% per year. So this is just chips that are powered by light in addition to electricity, right? So what this does is this takes us north of $20 billion by the end of the decade. What you're really looking at is a $500 billion electronics industry. Yep.
You're not sharing your screen.
Okay, interesting. Thank you very much. Whoop. How about now? Yes? Oh man, all right. Bonus points, just going live. So anyway, so electronics is, we leverage the semiconductor manufacturing and you combine it with the applications of light, which is also a $500 billion industry. So really combining those two industries. The main problem that we're solving is that the light source for these chips is not yet solved, at least in a scalable way. So what you're looking here on the right-hand side is inside a commercial product. And you can see that red part that I called out there, that is how it's done today. You have a single laser sitting on the surface of a chip with 10,000 components or more optical components integrated. So the laser's not integrated, and it needs to be in order for this industry to scale. Right now, that thing costs way too much money to say, like, you know, let's go from 1 million units to 1 billion optical units, something that's never been done before. You have to integrate and put more lasers on there, different colors and different densities. So our company approaches this in a completely different way than anything that's been done out there. Again, it's an important problem that's been worked on. There's still all of these workarounds here. But what we're doing is we're putting a light emitting ink onto the surface of the silicon photonics chips. And with that, then you can create hybrid structures that give you lasers. So what's really unique about this, first of all, the on-chip part. Second, the volume manufacturing. Like I said, once you've done one, you can do a billion, right? Because this is a chip technology. And the spectrum. So our inks can be changed, color changed, and that's right, opens many markets that are not even accessible right now. So this is what it looks like, just real quick. The main thing, people are like, well, how does this work? It's just the point is the ink and the silicon together make a laser. So I can explain that some other time if you're interested. All right. So in terms of business model, we are selling to the chip makers to enable them to sell on-chip lasers downstream to the system designer. So the system designer right now, they have the burden, like I showed you, of actually assembling things themselves. They don't want to do that. They want to buy one chip from the chip maker and be done with it. And that's the way forward. So those are some chips that were done actually at a 300 millimeter or 12-inch commercial scale foundry in New York State. AIM Photonics is one of our earliest supporters, and I just got new chips today, which is very exciting. So how does this work out with CleanTech? The most important thing, well, actually, it's a platform technology. It enables many applications of CleanTech. So, for example, the beachhead market we are targeting is actually methane sensing. And it's not just methane, because there's cheap methane detectors out there. But what people are interested in is that methane, ethane, CO2, does it have toxic gas? You want to do a multiplex sensor. And to do that, you need multiple colors on a chip in order to do that. So you can't just make an IoT solution that's big. You make it on a chip with multiple lasers. So obviously methane is a massive problem for the environment. And then also optical communications. This is where a lot of this is being deployed today. It has to do with, AI is super power hungry. Everyone's excited about it, but it's going to use like 3 times the amount of power. And it turns out photonics can help mitigate that significantly, like orders of magnitude in terms of energy consumption. So there are many more markets, but those are kind of the ones I wanted to highlight today. In terms of team, myself, I have a PhD from Columbia University. I've been managing programs for 15 years. I've had some public facing roles, including Fulbright and OSA ambassador. So, and my colleague, Josh Wood, he is the nanomaterial expert. He's also worked in photovoltaic manufacturing and now is doing technical sales. We're advised by Michael Lear, who is the founding CEO of AIM Photonics, again, one of our earliest supporters. And he is been tremendous for us, obviously, with his industry experience in semiconductors. Our partner network includes universities, the Air Force. We have a current contract. They're our alpha customer for our inks, right? We're sending them stuff now and getting feedback. And of course, Clean Energy Trust on there is one of our earliest investors. So I'm out of time here. So just want to say we're going to launch our Series Seed in the new year to have a manufacturing plant for the inks and also for completing our electrical foundry ready prototype. And where Iris Light, we put lasers on light chips to power all of these magnificent industries.
Thank you, Chad. Nanograph is up next.
Hey everyone, I am Daniel and I am the Director of Business Development for Nanograph, and we're an advanced materials business that enables an electrified future. So originally we spun out of Northwestern University, and our proprietary silicon anode technology enables world-leading energy density in batteries. So our silicon oxide can be loaded of up to 20 to 30% in the anode, whereas our competitors are right now about 5 to 10%. And our production process is easily scalable and low cost and completely drop-in into existing battery manufacturing lines. We were actually funded by the US Army and Department of Defense to make an ultra high energy density cell. And as a result, we recently developed an 800 watt hour 18650, which is the world's most energy dense battery. And production of that will actually begin in early 2022. And we've signed LOIs representing over 90 million in annual revenues. Unfortunately, we won't have time to go into details in this 5-minute presentation, but we're also exploring the option of building on the bipartisan support towards onshoring the US battery supply chain. And we have an MOU in place with a world-class cell manufacturer to forward integrate into the actual battery cell manufacturing and build a gigafactory here in Illinois. And that would first serve the US military, but then also more of the mainstream markets, such as the emerging premium EV OEMs that are currently underserved by the traditional cell producers today. And just to dig a little deeper into our actual technology, we have accomplished what is actually truly a milestone in batteries. So our 18650 has 800 watt hours per liter and 3.8 amp hour, and it's in an industry recognized standard form factor. And we did what amounts to essentially a decade worth of battery performance improvements in 7 or 8 months. And the reason why we're able to do this is because our material is truly drop-in. So these batteries are actually coming off the production line in Asia beginning in January at thousands of cells per run. And for the actual end user, this has some tangible benefits. We enable about a 29% range increase for electric vehicles compared to that of pure graphite anodes, and about 15% or so compared to the silicon-enabled batteries out there on the market today. And for a soldier in the US military, our cells would give them an 8-hour longer runtime, or kind of alternatively give them a much lighter battery pack to carry around in their backpack, because as it is today, the batteries make up about 20 to 25% of the weight that they carry around them on every mission. So our material has been de-risked, our cells have been de-risked, and we're now just ramping up volume to get the cells to the pack makers for validation. So these cells were actually developed as a direct result of our partnership and funding from the US military, and that's what we view as our beachhead market. So for your information, the military actually doesn't buy battery cells, they buy entire battery packs. So thanks to our performance in the 18650, we have signed LOIs from 4 of the largest battery pack makers out there. And that's what represents that 90 million in annual revenue that I was just talking about. And we expect to sign another 2 LOIs here shortly. So the Army approached us for a very specific cell that they wanted, and we met and exceeded that spec in every sense of the way. And so there's now been a lot of excitement around this cell, and we're branching out past the Army into other branches of the US military as well. So a little information about our actual material. This is the 6th generation of it, and it differentiates ourselves from our competitors in a couple of ways. So first of all, it is truly drop-in into the existing production lines. A lot of people and a lot of our competitors will say that is, but it requires no change in the equipment on the actual facility. It blends straight into the slurry and mixes with graphite to make the anode. And it works with any and all conventional battery or cathode chemistry out there on the market. So we designed the material to be truly scalable and low cost. And we like to say that it is a simple but a very elegant solution to the silicon anode. And last but not least, we're currently racing a $20 million Series B, really on the back of these recent milestones that we met. And we're going to be using these funds to expanding and onshoring our production capacity from 10 tons a year, which is our current capacity. It's manufactured in Japan today, to 36 tons per year by moving into a new facility here in the West Loop of Chicago. We're going to be beginning our commercial sales of the 18650s by starting to meet these 90 million of LOIs from the military, and also be moving into some of the premium EV, more mainstream markets and applications. So with that, I'll hand it back, and thank you all for your time.
Thank you, Daniel. This wraps up the first part of our pitches, and now we will move into the fireside chat with Elena Harkness, who is the Executive Director of Current, and Eric Burkert, who is the CEO of Clean Energy Trust. They will introduce themselves, and then we'll have a discussion on clean tech in Chicago. I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks so much, Julie. I'll kick it off. I'm Elena Harkness, the Executive Director of Current. We're a water innovation hub headquartered right here in Chicago. And our mission is really 3 parts. We want to grow an inclusive blue economy here in our region. We're thinking a lot about the supply side. You're seeing some of that on display today, but also the demand drivers for water and water technology. We want to help accelerate those technologies and bring them to market faster by helping connect people to pilots, to funders, to investors, and to others that can help them grow their customer base. And then finally, we help to solve pressing water challenges in our region by doing things like addressing water quality. We've just recently launched a project called H2 Now Chicago, which is providing real-time water quality information about the Chicago River. So we'll actually serve in the role of water technology innovators ourselves. So that's a bit about Current. Eric?
Thanks, Elena. So my name is Eric Burkerts. First of all, I would just like to thank World Business Chicago for pulling this together and allowing some of these great companies to showcase the great work that they're doing. So Clean Energy Trust, we're one of the OGs in the climate tech innovation space. We've been around since 2010. We're somewhat of a unique model. We're a 501c3, but we act in many ways like a early stage seed investor. So, you know, our mission as a 501c3 is to provide catalytic capital and support to great, you know, innovators and entrepreneurs working on clean energy, decarbonization, and environmental sustainability. And we execute our model through something we call our 501vc platform. So it's a riff on the fact that we are a not-for-profit, but we act like a venture investor. And we make seed investments and then provide just a lot of support to the companies we invest in. We've made 37 investments to date. The companies are based in the greater Midwest. We focus on this region because there is historically, it's been somewhat of flyover country where when you look at the flows of very early stage capital going into clean tech or climate tech, sort of the middle sort of portion of the United States does not get as much funding as the coasts, and we're looking to remedy that. So one of the things that perhaps could get the conversation started that I thought would be, you know, important to hear is just, you know, Elena, we can wrap a definition around clean tech, or, you know, I guess now people are calling it climate tech. You know, when we started 10 years ago, it was very much, you know, focused on, you know, renewable energy such as solar and wind, biofuels, but certainly things have gotten much more expansive and is touching almost every aspect of the economy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm just thinking, you know, Current is, you know, just turned 5 years old. So we've been around for half the time as Clean Energy Trust has, but I've only been around for 2 years. And just in those 2 years, how much the conversation has shifted and the energy and dynamism around, I think, the clean tech space, certainly here in the Chicago kind of entrepreneurship and investment ecosystem. But, you know, I know that's happening with our partners that are around the country and around the world. So it's been really exciting to see that growth. I think there's a couple dynamics in the definition of clean tech. One, I think can be sort of clean tech is everything. Like everybody's got a clean tech problem now, right? We are recognizing that the world needs to do so much to meet its decarbonization goals. We've had this major awakening around climate change and those massive drivers. So in some ways, I think you can look at clean tech and clean energy today the way that it was at the dawn of the internet. Like everybody's got an internet problem. Everybody needed internet and software solutions. And in some ways, I feel like that's kind of the moment that we're in, the inflection point from it being this really niche area of technology to being something that every single sector and every single person needs. But then the other side of it is there's lots of really specialized hard tech within clean tech, right? And so thinking about how to broaden the definition beyond the very justifiable and important focus on energy, but to look at, you know, where we're sitting, water companies, which are often sort of not in the mix or seen as more marginalized. My friend Tom Ferguson, who runs Burn Island Ventures and came from the Imagine H2O accelerator for water, I mean, says very explicitly that Burnt Island is not a clean tech fund because in clean tech, water is a $900 billion afterthought, which I think is really interesting. He thinks you can only sort of be good at water if you only do water. And so I think it's just interesting to see those two ends of the spectrum around clean tech. It's either going towards like the thing that everybody needs in every single sector, from food and beverage and manufacturing and utilities, all the different customer bases we've already heard about from the startups who have pitched today. Or we need to understand really specifically investment theses for particular aspects of clean tech that are going to be important drivers here in Chicago and beyond. So I think both of those things, both of those dynamics are in play right now.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, you mentioned some of the, the fact that, in clean tech, we're dealing with, oftentimes with hard science problems. And, one of the great things about Chicago and the Chicago region is just the assets we have in place. We have Fermilab, we have Oregon National, a great program that, is run out of Oregon is something called Chain Reaction Innovations.
Yep.
Where really high potential entrepreneurs get to spin into the national laboratory to take advantage of all the great equipment and resources the lab has, to tap into the great expertise that resides at the lab, and then after a period of time they get to spin back out without having their IP encumbered, which is just terrific. We now have a really expanding quantum computing kind of focus for the city and the region. And
yep.
Your point at where clean tech touches everything, quantum computing is critical to solving some of the great kind of clean tech challenges we face.
Yeah, absolutely. If we think about the demand conditions for the growth of clean tech, because I'm bullish just like you are on the innovation ecosystem we have and sort of the supply side drivers. I mean, having 2 national labs here in the region is just incredible, not to mention all the tier 1 research universities and others that you mentioned. But on the demand side, I think Chicago's got really interesting advantages too. If you look at just the baseline demand for clean tech, doing what we're doing right now every single day, but doing it in ways that are saving water, saving energy, fixing the problems we already have in this metro region that has, nearly $10 million people, 10 million people. They all do have dollars. But just thinking about that baseline and how much need for clean technologies there will be, again, across every sector, that's great. But then we also have these really important policy and regulatory drivers. This landmark climate legislation we have here in the state of Illinois, trying to get to 40% renewable power by 2030 is a pretty big deal. That's less than 10 years away. And that's going to mean all of us looking at how we live differently, how we do business differently, certainly how we manage and deliver water and energy for this entire region differently. And then if you look long-term, I mean, I think just the demand for water and the water assets that we have here is going to change the demand conditions for all industry here, right? It's a great place with water, a water stable future to do manufacturing, to do food and beverage production. And thinking about those long-term demand conditions, I think, really make it an interesting place to build clean tech companies that need to be close to a very diversified customer base. I mean, we have so many headquarters companies here that are going to have needs for clean tech, and also the utilities. I mean, Nina mentioned how many small and mid-sized utilities there are here in the state, not to mention, the very large ones we're very fortunate to have here in Chicago and in the metro. So yeah, a lot of reasons to be optimistic about the ecosystem and the demand, and bringing those 2 things together because of smart partners in the middle.
Now, we at Clean Energy Trust, we certainly benefit from support and engagement with the great corporations in region. I mean, you have Netenergy, which is the largest privately held independent power producer. They build wind farms. They do grid tied energy storage, net gas peaking. They're getting into hydrogen. I mean, they're just the powerhouse, and they're literally right across the street. We have Caterpillar here in Chicago. We have Archer Daniels Midland.
Yeah.
Forget about food and alternative proteins as a really kind of critical so climate solution.
Yeah.
And Boeing and United, they're looking at aviation and trying to figure out, okay, how can we either use sustainable aviation fuels to decarbonize travel and aviation. So there's just so much great activity. And then we're starting to see some of these early companies starting to break out as well, in the sort of the aviation space. There's a great company right here in Skokie, which is a suburb of Chicago, called LanzaTech. They're basically, they're now fueling some of Virgin Atlantic's, planes.
Right.
Sustainable aviation fuels. You have Nature's Find, which is an alternative protein company based on using fungi, and they're doing terrific. They've raised money from Bill Gates. They've raised money from Group Danone. They've raised money from Archer Daniels Midland, and they're right here in our backyard. And one of these great assets that kind of is hiding in plain sight. So,
yep,
and stuff taking place.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned before, everybody's and so excited about Reaply and the idea that there's a company that's building, its whole thesis around the idea that there's a circular economy and a need for more, recycling of the resources that companies are using. I think that links back to another big demand side driver, which is just the interest in ESG across every single sector, figuring out how to quantify business risk and the role that climate is playing in creating very large business risks for many different sectors. And this climate tech portfolio is really a big part of that solution. That's something else that I think has changed just remarkably much in the last couple of years. Just the amount of money that companies are spending on it and the amount of sort of credibility that is being placed on commitments and delivering on those commitments and demonstrating that clean tech solutions that are deployed within the company are really driving down those risks and delivering results. So I think it's really interesting to think about this clean tech ecosystem as part of that solution set.
Yeah, and I think we would be remiss if we also didn't talk about sort of equity and access, and that there is a strong commitment amongst the corporate and civic leaders in the city and the people in the clean tech ecosystem to ensure that the technologies that are getting developed, that that they the benefits of those technologies don't just accrue to the wealthy and the well-off, that they're actually being deployed and solving some of the challenges in some of the neighborhoods and communities around Chicago. Because as we know, utility expenditures, whether that's water, gas, or electricity, represents a large share of wallet for people. And there are other issues around mobility and food deserts and other issues that the clean tech community is really mobilizing to address.
Yeah, absolutely. And also I think something else that's really exciting is thinking about the growth in clean tech as pathways to employment and wealth creation for Chicagoans, for people across the region. And I think we're fortunate to have a leg up in that we have a strong workforce development system here. We have a lot of companies that are also, really thinking about what it's going to take to build everything from STEM education to career tech to, 2- and 4-year degrees, all the way on up through the really high-end engineering jobs that are, again, and faculty research positions that are driving the innovation and discovery of the next great solutions. And it's great to be able to have the right people at the table to think about what those pathways are, how we build them, how we strengthen some of the gaps. Current this year got a federal grant from the Department of Commerce to develop our inclusive blue economy strategy for the region, which again is picking out water and trying to see how the water jobs and water opportunities are going to play across both these supply and demand sides. But I do think there's enormous opportunity here and different ladders to actually grow those jobs and opportunities for the people in places that need them most. And obviously with this federal administration's priorities, squarely focused on the intersection between environmental improvements we need to see and the economic recovery path that is, really laid out in front of us. I think, again, clean tech really well positioned to capitalize on that, and Chicago's well positioned to bring some of that funding, continue to bring that funding here to our hard tech and to our innovation ecosystem. So,
and at a very practical level, when entrepreneurs are starting to build and scale companies, burn rate and runway is a very real concern. And I think, the city of Chicago, compared to certain parts of the country, is also a very affordable and highly livable city to build a company. So we've seen some companies who have elected to stay, even though they were courted by investors elsewhere. We've seen other companies that have picked up and moved to the city because of some of these attributes. So we're pretty bullish on Chicago. So,
and just thinking about the amount of space to grow because we certainly had, have more and more startups here, but also really exciting that we're adding wet lab space. I think there's going to be something like, 280,000 square feet just in the first new building that's about to break ground in Lincoln Yards. I mean, that's an incredible amount of life sciences space that can also, benefit clean tech entrepreneurs. And, we are fortunate to be a very large city that also still has room to grow and room to grow up. So that's a pretty distinctive advantage. So yeah, I think we're running a little close to the end of time here. So any last words to share with this group? I'm certainly excited we got to be here with so many inspiring entrepreneurs today.
No, I'd rather wrap up and allow the entrepreneurs to do what they do best, which is talk about the great ideas and companies that they're building. So
great. Well, this was fun, Eric. I'd love to be in conversation with you always, and exciting to be part of the clean tech innovation ecosystem. So
thank
Julian,
you.
back over to you. Thanks so much for the opportunity.
Thank you both so much for that great discussion. And thank you, Elena, for having us as part of Water Week.
Absolutely. Excited to have this program as part of Water Week.
Now we will turn back to the next group of startup pitches, starting with Netenergy.
Hi, Mike Pintar, CEO of Netenergy. Thanks everyone for being here. So we're a thermal energy storage company based here in Chicago. And the problem that we're solving is peak electricity for cooling is very expensive. One of the most expensive times of the day is in the middle of the day when the air conditioner is blasting, and electricity prices are often 2 to 10 times more expensive, and building cooling is the primary driver for these high prices. Currently, there's no great way of combating this. So we've developed our thermal battery, which stores cold, which there's a couple unique things about it. Many of you have probably heard of ice storage systems. We do a very similar thing. Instead of taking water, freeze and make ice, we have a patented phase change composite material of wax and graphite. The key characteristic is it has a freezing point to 42 degrees Fahrenheit, which integrates more optimally with commercial air conditioning systems. On top of that, it has a thermal conductivity that is 10 times higher, which means we can charge and discharge it very, very quickly. And lastly, it is a modular design. We can fit any type of application. Altogether, we're using this to create a hybrid thermal energy storage system, similar to concept of taking a more efficient gas-powered engine and adding an electric battery to make a hybrid car. We're taking a more efficient air conditioning compressor, adding our thermal battery to reduce peak demand by 50% or more, while improving efficiency by 20% or more. The idea behind this is to maximize peak cooling savings while minimizing the size, the weight of the thermal battery, and having an easy to integrate solution that can just replace, a standard commercial air conditioning system without modification, to the roof or any of the other components. So, looking at this as superior to competing technologies for the purposes of thermal storage, lithium-ion batteries are great, electric vehicles and the such, but for the purposes of offsetting cooling, they have a higher cost on the lifespan, some fire danger. There's some cities that don't allow for the large scale building and utility scale energy storage systems. Ice storage systems work pretty well for very large commercial and industrial applications, but they don't scale down to the commercial and residential. Then there's also variable speed compressors, which can improve efficiency, but they can't really reduce peak demand. We've done a lot of extensive payback comparisons. One of our target markets is Baltimore. We can get the sweet spot of the payback in 3 to 5 years. So looking at where we sit in terms of the value chain, just so you have an idea of our technology, we are a component similar to, what our partner Emerson does, where they manufacture compressors and building controls. This goes into the overall rooftop unit where it's integrated at the factory, such as one of our partners Train, and then it goes through the typical supply chain distributor, contractor, building owner, unless you're dealing with a large national account where they acquire the HVAC systems directly from the OEM. So, the key to this though is, from a customer payback perspective, is that demand charges, they're expensive, they're rising throughout the country. And and that's how we provide the ROI economically. Additionally, as we build, put more renewables on the grid, especially in areas California, Florida, and such, they're actually overproducing solar during the middle of the day, so they actually have to curtail energy production. And so our thermal battery would allow us to actually capture some of that solar energy that would otherwise go to waste during the peak period, and then to be leveraged more in the evening period. We did a study of looking how with our technology we can improve utility greenhouse gas reduction across the country. Altogether, this provides us with a $4 billion global technology value. Our initial target market is the US rooftop market. And then if you expand it to global commercial and residential, that adds another $3.5 billion. So we've had a great history with this. We've received some of our initial investment from Clean Energy Trust, great partners, NREL, Wells Fargo, Exxon, and then the Department of Energy. So we're raising $7.5 million for a 3-year use of cash to accomplish the following, for doing multiple field test demonstrations. We actually have grant funding for this from the Department of Energy. My business partner, Saeed, he created a battery company, Also Technologies, and we've had a lot of great partners throughout the year. So thank you for your time, and please give me an email if you have any questions.
Thanks so much, Mike. Renewance is up next.
Hi, can you hear me and see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ganesh. I'm the VP of Sales at Renewance. So the new energy reality is that batteries are everywhere. I mean, you have electric vehicles, micromobility, stationary storage, and there are literally millions of batteries, advanced industrial batteries being deployed with finite lives and in a highly dispersed manner all over the world. And there is really no standard way to manage these batteries when they reach end of life. So some of the challenges batteries have at end of life are in these 3 buckets. You have environmental challenges, economical challenges, and just the basic transparency on what's happening to the batteries at end of life. Today's not solutions, but options are very costly, inefficient, very resource intensive solutions. Regulations are evolving every day. They are pretty complex. Recycling and reuse business models are constantly evolving. The pricing does vary quite a bit. The environmental impact also does vary significantly, and it's really difficult to optimize across solutions. As an illustration, if you have a typical fleet owner of electric vehicles with roughly 25 to 30 electric trucks, they have a couple of options. The first option is to recycle, and this is probably the most expensive option that they have. They could try to reuse the batteries. There are a couple of channels, online channels like eBay, where customers do buy used batteries. You could probably get the most dollar for your used asset, but then this is really not acceptable by most of the companies because there is really no oversight on where these batteries are used and what happens to them. The third option is also reuse, but more responsible reusers. So these are customers who will apply for the necessary certifications, safety certification standards, and also make sure that the batteries are recycled at the end of the second life. And you can get anything between having to pay $100,000 up to $500,000. So there's a big range in terms of responsibly reusing the battery. So Renewance solution, we believe in doing this the right way. So we like to kind of check the box on the 3 main challenges, the environmental, economical, and transparent, by creating a platform called Renewance Connect. So this is a platform, a technology and data-enabled marketplace for used industrial batteries. So the business model is twofold. Transaction-based, so the recycling and repurposing services between asset owners recyclers, and second life users. And the subscription-based model, which is more of a paid asset lifecycle management service for battery asset owners. So the wave of used batteries is coming. I mean, there are tons of reports nowadays which talk about the used or electric vehicle sales and so on. But I just pulled out a couple of popular reports. One which shows the electric vehicle sales over the next 10 years, and in turn the number of lithium-ion batteries just coming up for recycling. And as you can see, they're growing almost 19% CAGR over the next 10 years. Also, another report by McKinsey, they state that the second life lithium-ion battery supply could surpass 200 gigawatt hours per year by 2030. So we're talking about 9 years from now, and these are a whole lot of batteries which are coming up for end of life. Renewance, I mean, we are proud to have acquired a significant set of customers over the past couple of years. They're either customers on our subscription model, or they've utilized us for one of the end-of-life services that we do offer. And as you can see, there are quite a few big names over here. We are also the proud, again, winner of the phase 1 and phase 2 of the battery recycling prize, which is a DOE program. So hopefully we'll win the third prize too. And obviously we are, we are a partner with Clean Energy Trust, and we have some funding from them. Let's see. In terms of the team, so this is our leadership team. All of us, we have 20+ years of experience, mainly in the energy storage industry. All of the founders came from GE when GE was building a battery business, sodium nickel chloride batteries. So that's kind of our, that's where we earned our energy storage jobs per se. In terms of what we're looking for, so is this, I'm out of, oh, there you go. Okay. So we're looking for a $2 million investment. We would use that money to establish used battery grading expertise in-house. And we would also expand our operations by establishing asset collection and testing locations on the West and East Coast, in addition to our location in Chicago. So that's pretty much it. So I think we've been at this for a few years now. So we are poised to set the standard for used batteries. So that was a very quick overview on Renewance.
Thank you, Ganesh. STEMloop is next.
All right, so hello everybody. My name is Khalid. I'm the founder and CEO of STEMloop, and I'm excited to tell you about how we're going to solve large-scale sensing challenges with molecular precision. So the world that we live in today demands information. I can glance at my watch to check my physical activity and remind myself to get moving. I can even measure my cardiac rhythm in real time to make sure that all is well in here. Being able to generate and access this information is transformative. And we've come to expect it because we use these technologies in our daily lives to make informed decisions. But there is a problem because mechanical and optical sensors can only tell us so much, and we still can't access some of the most important information that we need at the molecular level in verticals like biomanufacturing, food and agriculture, health and wellness. We don't even have a way of knowing it when our most vital resource, water, is safe for consumption and when it's not. But there is a solution because biology has already spent 4 billion years solving this problem. Microorganisms have evolved mechanisms to sense their environment and respond by turning genes on or off because their survival depends on it. And so at STEMloop, we tap into the rich diversity of biological sensors that exist for everything from heavy metals to pesticides, and we engineer them into technologies that enable us to not only survive, but to thrive in our environments. And the way we do this is by reprogramming these biological sensors outside of the cell into cell-free systems. These are biochemical systems that are highly programmable. They support genetic circuits to process information, and they ultimately power a reaction that generates visible signals if a molecule is present above a defined concentration. These systems can also be embedded into paper devices through freeze drying to create inexpensive, on-demand, point-of-use sensors that are activated by rehydration. And we're commercializing this technology because we believe everyone should be able to generate and access information about their environment. And we have the best team to make this vision possible. So we're spun out of Northwestern University, along with my co-founders, Professor Julius Lux and Michael Jewett. And the three of us have worked together for over 5 years, resulting in 5 patents pending and 6 peer-reviewed publications in the last 2 years alone. Since our founding in 2019, we've secured over $1 million in grants and contracts from federal agencies. Now, while our platform has applications in a lot of different verticals, the first problems that we want to solve are in the $4.5 billion water quality market, which we believe is critical for humankind, as well as a well-timed market opportunity for us. So the largest growth within this market is the demand for heavy metal testing. It just so happens that the best biosensors that are out there exist for these metals. This is a proven and viable application area for our technology. And after we develop, commercialize, and scale our first product, we'll be able to rapidly expand within this market with additional products. And we're also a mission-driven organization. And we believe that we can not only recruit the world's best talent, but we can make money by addressing challenges like UN Sustainable Goal 6. And especially those challenges that require transformative new approaches that can scale to address the problem. And we have a beachhead market in our backyard. So lead is absolutely pervasive in America's drinking water. There are more than 3,000 American communities with lead levels higher than those detected in Flint during the peak of their crisis. There are over 13 million households and 400,000 schools and childcares that receive their drinking water through lead service lines. It's so pervasive that 186 million Americans, that's 57% of the population, are exposed to water contaminated with lead. Now, as a reminder, there is no safe level of lead exposure. It's linked to more than 400,000 deaths annually. It's a potent neurotoxin that's especially harmful to children. And it's believed that reducing exposure to children by 80% will save us well over $1 trillion in the long run. The existing approaches, though, are unable to address the need. The old approach is laboratory testing. It's costly, it's complicated, it's slow, and inherently cannot scale. These characteristics of laboratory testing are a major pain point that we've validated by speaking to hundreds of customers. And in response, we're developing a solution that we believe is not only accessible, but that can actually scale to address the challenge. So our device is equipment free. It can be mailed directly to households for the price of postage. And it only requires that the user dip the device in water for a few seconds. It can be read directly, but can also be is compatible with the mobile application that can enhance the user experience and provide solutions. Now, this is more than just a conceptual mock-up. This is a real product that we've developed today with prototypes and packaging. There's a multi-billion-dollar TAM. We've identified 3 different customer segments that we're developing go-to-market strategies for. And we've identified potential partners that can help us distribute into these channels. For anybody that's interested, happy to some other point go into our financial projection. But I also just wanted to mention that we can do a lot more than lead, including copper and zinc, which we've shown before, including waterborne pathogens and emerging contaminants. And then there's this whole other sector of biomanufacturing that we can tap into. So as I mentioned, we've raised over $1 million to date. We are now raising a $3.7 million seed round. And this is where we are creating the next generation of sensor technologies. And we invite you to come visit us and do due diligence with us in person. And with that, thank you so much.
Thank you, Khalid. And lastly, we have Waterly.
Getting there, trying to hit all the unmute buttons at the same time here. So hopefully I'm coming through good. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for staying all through this. And
your screen.
You cannot?
No.
All right, hang tight. We'll try that. Oh, you have to hit the share button after you hit the share button. All right, now we're good. So good afternoon, I'm Chris Cisnowski. I'm the founder and CEO of Waterly. I am based out of McHenry County in Illinois here, born and raised in Cook County. And I have been in the water industry for about 25 years. So this is a problem that I have lived and breathed. I do not actually write software. We have co-founders that do that I'll share a little bit more later. But basically the problem we're solving here is that, as we call it, digital water is not reaching most water utilities in the US. So over 85% of the roughly 65,000 water and wastewater utilities in the US, 85% of them have not started to digitize their basic operational data. So we've got essentially an entire planet, if you will, of utilities that have good intentions to be smart and be digital, but most of them are stuck on paper. I've experienced this firsthand in the city of Chicago at the water treatment plants there, where data is collected mostly by paper, as well as down to the smallest, most rural water systems in the US, where these technologies have not really reached them. So a lot of people say, no big deal, paper's tried and true, it's great, I don't need to digitize. But there's risks here, and that is operational, financial, regulatory risks. Non-compliance being the one that most people are afraid of, but water's pretty dang resilient. So really, practically the risks here are operational and financial and loss of revenue, potential revenue and loss of maintainable assets inside of utilities. So we see this as a giant opportunity to reduce costs, transfer knowledge to new operators, and increase customers' trust of public water. So we're all about the water utility. We understand the size and the shape of this market. And today, amongst the books on the shelves, I do represent Waterly and the platform WaterClick that we're growing out of this. But this is a giant mega market. So Waterly is the product that handles the regulatory data management side of it, but we have a whole bunch of friends that we're pulling in alongside us to click together, so to say. So this is just kind of a smattering of what we're calling the ARR submarket. So it's really hard to put a fine point on what the ARR market in utilities is, but we know it is growing exponentially based on the experience in the last few years. So it's definitely over a $10 billion market. This very short, quick graph is what all founders normally put up to say this is how our growth is going to be. But looking back, this is how our growth was. So this is a factual slide that shows our growth over the last 18 months. We originally started selling beachhead market as small rural utilities to the tune of $500 a year. Yes, you heard that correct. That was $500 a year that we were selling to rural utilities. We've since been able to bump that to about $1,500 a year for the smallest rural utilities, just with the Waterly product by itself. And then in 2020, if you ignore the stagnant portion, Q1 and Q2 in 2020, something happened in that period. I don't remember what it was, but we started selling upmarket to larger utilities and quickly saw that people are people, no matter what size utility they are in. And we started asking partners to join us in the journey. And that's how the WaterClick brand was born, because Waterly was solving a problem as a product. And we realized that we had developed along the way a platform for people to plug into. So this is just sort of our launch plan, and just due to time, I certainly can provide this to people if they want to dig in and see this, but this is our looking back and looking forward map. Pretty much the end of 2020 was where we turned that knee of the curve on the kind of ARR when we started selling upmarket and started helping partners to click together to provide answers to small and mid-sized utilities. So this is us. Co-founders are on the top, myself, and then a development house out of Indianapolis called Developer Town. Mike and Jason are founding partners there. They are not only investors, but they provide the software expertise behind the scenes. We've got some development branding partners. We've also partnered with locally Mazarine Ventures out of Chicago. They are our lead investor on our round. So we've got that behind us, and we've got a handful of other utilities, utility leaders that advise us on the journey. So we're raising 1.5 million on a $5 million valuation based on current traction and potential looking forward. And we've already got about 200, actually that should be around $500,000 committed to the round. And this is where it's going to go. No surprise. We're going to market the heck out of this. We believe this is a land grab where we're scrambling to go across the United States. Currently, we have 60 customers in 4.5 states. I say that because we're verbal agreement for our 5th state and looking to expand quickly. We just opened it up to the US a few months ago. So with that, for those in the Chicagoland area, I will be physically at McCormick Place most of next week, Monday through Wednesday. Would love to meet you in person. If you need a free pass to the exhibit hall, please reach out to me and I would be happy to connect you with that pass.
Thank you so much, Chris. And thank you to all of the startups who pitched. And thank you to Elena and Eric. To close out, we have some special remarks from Deputy Mayor Samir Mayakar.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you to Startup Chicago, Current, and the Clean Energy Trust for organizing our first ever CleanTech Showcase. My name is Samir Mayakar. I'm Deputy Mayor here in the City of Chicago for Economic Development, and I bring greetings from the City of Chicago and Mayor Lori Lightfoot. And I feel home today at Startup Chicago because my story, it's one that's shared with many of you. I love our Chicago tech community and especially our clean tech community because I know how critical it is for us to focus on this issue as a city. I know that all this talk about the coast or Miami, that's a fad. We know the real deal is here in Chicago. And this is a story that I've lived. Before I joined the mayor's office, I founded a clean tech company here in the city. It started 10 years ago when I was a grad student at Northwestern, and I was passionate about clean tech. And I met some brilliant PhDs, and we found a technology in the material science department that could dramatically improve the performance of lithium-ion batteries. So the technology was developed jointly between Argonne National Labs and Northwestern. So our team took the technology from lab to market. We raised funding as students competing on the business plan competition circuit. We built our headquarters here in Chicago on the South Side, and then we scaled our operations with offices in Japan, China, and Silicon Valley. And today, the company continues to grow. So uniquely, the journey that I just told you about is authentic to Chicago and what's possible here in the Midwest. You have research led by our world-class universities and national labs. That's commercialized into a company here in Chicago with customers at our fingertips, with original investors and customers here in the Midwest, built by great talent. And with that experience in mind, I'm so proud to be leading the mayor's economic development agenda, especially as we accelerate our recovery efforts as we navigate the end of the pandemic's consequences on our businesses and our residents. And I want you to know that Chicago has a recovery plan for getting out of COVID. So let me pivot to that agenda here in the city. Under Mayor Lightfoot's leadership last summer, we published the first ever COVID economic recovery plan of any American city. And that plan focused on three main areas. First, addressing the mental health challenges that we all face from the pandemic. Secondly, doubling down on sectors where Chicago has strengths and that are positioned for significant growth. And third, better marketing our city and our region as a place to visit and to grow your company. Our region has one of the most diverse economies in the country, and its historic strengths, abundant talent, world-class infrastructure assets, and a very strategic central location. These are all reasons that we have a vital role in the region's recovery. So the sectors that we're going to be focused on here regionally include transportation, distribution, and logistics, healthcare and life sciences, food and agriculture, and manufacturing. And that really is what ties into clean tech. Each of these sectors offers significant opportunities for inclusive economic growth. And that's why I really like to end with why Chicago? Why Chicago and the broader Midwest is the place to grow your business in clean tech. I'm confident that our first in the nation recovery efforts and results will continue to drive Chicago's role as a global leader in clean tech research and innovation. Chicago started off 2021 with its best quarter in over 15 years for venture capital investment. In fact, the total venture funding by Chicago companies reached more than $5 billion in the first 5 months of the year. To put that in context, in 2020 alone, it was $3 billion. So we're in the middle of the absolute best year in Chicago tech history. We've created over 12 unicorns since January, and Chicago and Illinois universities are the second largest producer nationally for STEM talent. As home to one of the largest concentrations of Fortune 500 headquarters and home to 400 major corporate offices and R&D centers, we have a global corporate base driving investments and opportunities to partner and grow our local innovation system. And I saw that with my company. We closed a lot of deals at O'Hare Airport. Chicago has a vital role in generating new science and technology, and we have ecosystem leaders who are going to provide critical support to bring clean tech from breakthroughs in the national lab to practical applications that can foster new businesses, create jobs, and improve aspects of the quality of life. So all of us here in Chicago and the Midwest welcome you to come to Chicago to launch or invest your new big breakthrough. So thank you for having me today. And on behalf of Mayor Lightfoot and the entire city of Chicago, I want to virtually welcome you to our first ever Clean Tech Showcase. Welcome.
This concludes our Clean Tech Showcase. We will leave the Zoom room open for a few minutes if you would like to exchange contact information, connect with each other. Please note that we will have a Life Sciences Investor Forum next Tuesday, October 19th. We hope you can join us. And again, a very special thank you to Elena and Eric, in addition to the startups who pitched and the investors for attending. Thank you so much.